We all know there are different ways to approach a presentation. Usually the way you approach a presentation depends on your personality, your audience, and the content of your presentation. What isn't thought about often is the versatility of presentation styles. This is probably because nobody is sitting around pondering the use of presentation styles. But when I began to ponder the idea, I was thinking about all the times in my life that I had to act a certain way or present things a certain way based on what I was doing at the moment. If I stood here and tried to go through every part of my life and categorize it by presentation style, I'd be here for hours. Instead of boring you to death with every life experience I've ever had, I decided to narrow this analyzation down to 1 year of my life. Well, 9 months, and technically they aren't over yet. Those 9 months, August to May, are freshman year of college. I grew up going to the same school since I was 3 years old, so as cliche as it sounds, as cliche as it sounds, this year has been the most transformative out of all of the years I can remember. I had to step out of my comfort zone, that zone being anything outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the campus of my school I attended for 14 years. So I landed here at the University of Kansas, and reality hit me fast and hard. I knew no one, I knew nothing, and quite frankly, I had no idea why I had picked this school, why I had picked to go to school here. I could not have been alone in these feelings with a freshman class of over 4,000. We're all involved in different things. Not everyone's experience is exactly the same, but I hope some of what I have to say hits home for those finishing up freshman year or those who have lived through it. First of all, you're probably wondering what presentation styles there are. Those are chronological, spatial, topical, pro-con, problem solution, and cause and effect. I will get more into the depth of the meaning of each later, and I won't go through all of them, just the 3 main ones that I've decided are most important and most representative of my freshman year. The first presentation style is cause and effect style. This style's title is pretty self-explanatory, but I'd like to think of it as more of a trial and error style. When you first get here, you're kind of testing out the waters and quickly finding out that everything you do has a direct effect on your life. You don't have much of a cushion. You're making decisions for yourself, and if you don't like them, you're the one who has to deal with them. This style is most commonly used in your first couple months. Some examples are the first time you speak up in class. For me, this is different because coming from a small school, I was comfortable talking to and in front of everyone in my classes. It can be uncomfortable in college because you don't know anyone and you don't want them to hate you, or the opposite, and you don't care what anyone thinks about you because they don't know you. Again, it's a trial and error process. Another example of this is just testing out things for the first time. This could be driving around, getting your bearings, figuring out where you are, or more importantly, where Target is, going to the dining hall and trying out foods that you don't normally eat, or trying out foods that you normally eat to see what they taste like in college. My conclusion from this is that GSP always has the best grilled chicken, and always go to Downs if you want some tacos. College is about figuring out stuff on your own, and this style speaks to that. My chronological is the next style I'm going to talk about, and this is my personal favorite. Chronological style is using time sequences to frame what you're talking about. This is my favorite because this is how I tell stories. I like to start as far back as possible, and I'd never miss a period of time. This style relies heavily on details and time frames. One shock that I felt heavily when coming to college is that no one knew anything about me. I soon realized that every friend I made or that I would make, I had to catch them up on my life. This means a lot of chronological storytelling. This is great for me because I love telling stories, and this is the first time in my life I was able to tell every story and only have my side of the story heard. My roommate and I are close because of this presentation style. There have been a lot of late nights and car rides spent detailing what happened to me in high school, what's important to me, what my family's like, what Tulsa is like, the list goes on. This style is most commonly used with friends, but I've also used it with professors. While this style is used for a lot of fun conversations, it's also used for some hard ones. I've always been able to advocate for myself, but not as much as I've had to in college. I have dyslexia and a whole list of other learning disabilities, and while it doesn't bother me to talk about it, it's also frustrating going from being taught by people who know you really well to having to explain yourself to professors that barely know your name. Chronological style is used most by those who want to use it. Some people don't care to tell everyone every last detail, but for people like me, this one is important. The last presentation style I'm going to talk about is the topical presentation style. This style determines and prioritizes information into categories. This style is similar to chronological style in the way that it helps you be able to tell stories. The most prominent example of the use of this style for me is sorority recruitment. This was an entire week of topical presenting. You were thrown into a house talking to someone that you don't know, trying to tell them every good thing that there is to know about you, and you only have about 15 minutes to do it. This forces you to prioritize things that you want these people to know about you. Do you want them to know about that bad breakup you had junior year? Probably not. So instead, talk about the mission trip that you went on this summer. While sorority recruitment is the most prominent example I have for this, it's not the only time I use topical presentation style. This style can be used when making any first impression. I used it when walking on the rowing team. When I got the chance to chat with someone, I prioritized what I wanted them to know about me. It may seem a little sketchy and manipulative, but when you think about it, you're using the style all the time, even when you're not trying to. If you're ever trying to put your best foot forward, choose topical. Presentation styles are all about finding out how to present information in the best way possible in your situation. This is how I've decided to make it through my freshman year. You may have a different way of going about it, but that's the beauty of the versatility of these styles.